Okay, salam alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And today we have our last session with Samia. She has been gracious enough to have honored us with all her knowledge throughout these 2 weeks as we are all trying to cope with the COVID-19 virus and all the stress and anxiety that we've been feeling throughout the weeks. Samia, again, is a clinical mental health intern, and she will talk today about the family system and how to deal with anxiety as a family. So welcome, Samia, and go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for such a lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. Today's topic is anxiety, but focusing more on the family system and how it affects the family system. So what does Quran say on anxiety? So these are the two verses that I really look up to and I remind myself with, and I feel like this has been really helpful in the last couple of weeks and the uncertainty that's coming up with everything that's been happening. So the first one is, perhaps you hate something and it's good for you, and perhaps you love something and it's bad for you. Allah knows while you don't know. So when I reflect on it, I feel like it really connects with so many things that we do in our daily lives, and especially with everything that's going on with the COVID-19, with the uncertainty, with not knowing what to do, and the idea of us not having that control over like when we go out, how we go out, and what we do, and if we can even go see our loved ones. Yeah, it's not the best thing that we feel like it is for us in the moment, but there's clearly a purpose for that. So every time I read this, that is the reflection that I have, that this is not something that I feel like it's the best for me in the moment, but it is the right thing for all of us, because there is a reason why we're doing this. There is an outcome. So when I remind myself of the outcome, it helps me apply to our current situation a lot. So the second one that has been really calming and soothing is, peace be upon you for what you patiently endured, and excellent is the final home. And I feel like this one really hits home right now, because this is not going to last forever. We're not going to be having the safe at home order forever, working from home, and all of these disruptions that none of us expected ever to happen. And we don't know when this is going to be lifted either. We still know that this is temporary. And it's really important for us to remind ourselves that, yeah, anxiety is going up and down and all around, and everything is just so out of control, but it's temporary and it will go away. So anytime you want to soothe yourself, these are the two things that you can remind yourself, and something to just constantly have it in the back of your mind, that it is temporary, it will be okay. Yeah, it's painful right now. It is taking away everything that we have been used to, the things that help us function normally in our daily lives, but it'll be okay. So manifestation of anxiety in family systems. A lot of times people don't think, and I know when I was growing up, I didn't realize how, if my parents were feeling anxious or if the routine was disrupted, it really affected me as a child too. And as I've gotten older, I've also seen this happen as I am an adult, and I can affect even my friends and family or anybody else, even the animals. Like, people can feed off of each other's anxiety, and it has to do with how much you also care and how much you crave that normalcy in your life. So when anxiety affects us, it also affects our interpersonal relationship, because let me quickly go back to the one slide from last week when we were talking about, when you start avoiding your anxiety, you start to realize that this is out of my control. And when things are out of our control and we can't soothe ourselves normally, it tends to make us irritable and can make us angry, and that can affect all of our interpersonal relationships. So as they start to affect our interpersonal relationships, it takes a longer toll, because the anxiety that we're dealing right now, it's not just a week or two. It is a longer, prolonged thing that we're going through. So the longer we are feeling the anxiety and we're unable to figure out what's going on with ourselves, unable to process those pieces, the longer and more it will affect our interpersonal relationships. Second thing, difficulty concentrating can lead to having difficulty to properly doing house chores or even finishing tasks. I can tell you that I have heard this with my clients. I have seen it in myself. I've seen it in my loved ones. Like, working from home seems like it'd be such a good option, but it's not the right thing for everybody else. So when you switch from having those similar things where you are compartmentalizing like each job to a certain place, when they're all put together in the same place, you might be doing some office work and all of a sudden your anxiety might kick in about like, oh, the dishes are not done. Oh no, the laundry's not done. So that normal thing that we got used to of having like everything in a certain way, it's not. And that can also lead to extra anxiety and also affect how efficient you are in your daily life. Difficulty expressing emotions and or fear. If we were to think about how many of us have felt the fear when the safe at home order was put in, when we were told that we can't go to work, we can't go get groceries all the time, we can't just go out and have fun, that really triggered that big fear response in a lot of us because it's a survival thing. Humans are like basically trained and involved in a way where we are ready to protect ourselves, we're ready to protect our loved ones, we're ready to protect for who we are and what we represent. So it's turning more into a survival thing as we're adjusting, and that can cause some severe anxiety and fear. And it's really easy for us to show the anger and other emotions that we might be feeling rather than the fear of things. And that can be really hard for us to express, especially as adults who are trying to keep everybody else at bay, trying to keep the little ones or our parents who might be struggling with health issues calm. So when we try to compartmentalize it so much that we can't label the fear or the anxiety or any of those like negative emotions, it also escalates our anxiety. And as we do that more and more, the little ones, when they're learning to show their emotions or talk about their emotions, they also see that, oh, hey, I can feel this energy. I'm understanding by the behaviors that are happening physically, but verbally, if my adults are not able to verbalize what they're feeling, I also might have that issue. So the more the adults kind of like shape themselves and present themselves, kids also learn to do that. So it's really important for us to be able to label like, yeah, I am fearful. And it is okay to be fearful. It is okay to feel that anxiety because that anxiety also serves the purpose. It's just really important for us to know what level of anxiety helps us function at a normal level or what level of anxiety kind of disrupts our daily routine that's really important for us to follow. Not being able to enjoy quality time with our loved ones, unable to interact, that is, I think, the biggest concern that we're dealing with as individuals, as families. How many of us can say that we're struggling with our parents being sick or having an autoimmune deficiency ourselves or a loved one? That would very much escalate your anxiety. And if you have loved ones working on like the front lines and protecting people and taking care of people, that would escalate your anxiety too, because you're sitting at home trying to work, trying to take care of your family and wondering, how is so and so? Are they okay? Are they exposed? What's going to happen next? That can really also affect yourself and the system too, because then everybody else is also worried and also wondering. And when the anxiety starts to escalate, you can't verbalize those. It's really good for us to be able to even validate that, yeah, I am worried about my family members. I'm worried about my loved ones. And it's okay for me to worry. But then again, what can I do to help myself and my loved ones? And the biggest thing that we have to remember while all of this is going on, that children tend to internalize their emotions because they don't know how to exactly verbalize them. For instance, when I was little, when I felt anxious, my stomach hurt really, really bad. but as an adult, I get jittery. So those are the ways that it can look in children, but it also makes a big difference when the adults in the family and all of the support system is trying to process and express, so that way children also learn how to do that. So the next two slides are going to be really breaking down how children work and how we can understand and express that piece. So preschool kids have the hardest time understanding and verbalizing because they're so little. They know what happy is, what sad is, and I cry when I'm unhappy, I cry when I'm uncomfortable, but it's really hard for them to even verbalize that piece. So some of the reactions that we can look for in little kids in order to help them cope with everything that's going on is by looking at like fear of being alone and bad dreams, difficulty with the way they are talking about it, the way they're speaking about and verbalizing it, loss of bladder control and bowel control. And like I see that so much in little ones when there is a traumatic situation happening, or if they're fearful of something, when their body slowly calms down when they're sleeping, that's when they will lose control of their bowel. And that is a really big indicator for little kids that they might be struggling with some anxiety. Change in appetite, that also goes for adults too. Change in appetite affects us a lot because when anxiety kicks in for people who have a lot of stomach issues, the more, like the worse your anxiety gets, the more it escalates, the more it affects your bowels. And the more it affects, you also think that like, maybe I shouldn't be eating so much, or maybe this is what I shouldn't be eating. So trying to see like how much that your mind and body is connected really helps you put those two pieces together. Increased temper tantrums, whining, or clinging behaviors. Basically, when you think about a temper tantrum, it is their way of communicating because they don't know the words. They don't understand what words to use because they don't have that big of a vocabulary that we do as an adult to describe every single piece. So they will rather throw a temper tantrum because that's what they know as like a baby, that when I cry, somebody will come soothe me. And this is the age where they're starting to learn those words. So it can be really frustrating and come out in anger. So the way to help the kids is like by being patient with them, helping them understand like this is a tough thing, but we're all in this together, helping them make sense of everything that's happening, giving them verbal and physical reassurance. Physical reassurance can look like, maybe I will give my child a little toy to play with, or maybe I will give my child a hug. Maybe my child needs a weighted blanket or just a nap. Things like that are really important for us to just show the child like there are physical and verbal ways of soothing yourself. Like when I was growing up, my biggest one was physical, but as an adult, my biggest soothing piece is verbal. And for little kids, verbal can be like, thank you for sharing that with me. Like if they throw a temper tantrum, you calm them down, help them understand like, hey, maybe this was happening or that was happening, and then verbally validate the child like, oh, I am so happy you shared this with me, or I completely understand how you're feeling. Just those little things really help children see their emotions, start to recognize their emotions. Allow them to have short-term changes in sleep arrangement, like maybe have extra naps right now if things are a little escalated for them and they can't sleep at night. So trying to be a little more flexible as we're all learning to be flexible. Encourage child expression play, reenact different things. Like if a child's having a really hard time telling you like, oh, I got hurt. Okay, how did you get hurt? So you can just be like, hey, here's a little toy. What happened? Can you show me where you're hurt so you can find the boo-boo? Or if their heart is hurting, or if they're feeling that anxiety in their stomach, can always like use a doll and be like, hey, where is this hurting you? So that really helps children to like have that like physical piece in front of them and then utilize the verbal piece as well. Maintaining regular family routine. It is really important for the entire family system right now to have a routine. even the adult children, the youngest one, everybody, the most routine that you can apply right now, the best it would be, because that way you have a plan throughout the day that you can, give your anxiety a little bit of a thing that I'm dealing with it day by day. So the children can be like, oh, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to take a bath. So they also learn to see those things. So the next one is school age and adolescence. So school age kids are the ones on this chart is between 6 to 12, irritability, whining, aggressive behaviors. Most of the people right now, when the kids, if we were to take an example of, let's say, a little boy learns that it's okay to show, if I'm angry physically, and a girl might, like, I'm using like typical ideas of these. So don't think that all little boys and girls are like this, but like if a little girl thinks it would be okay for her to cry, those are the two different things that can happen. But we have to remember that all children show their emotions in a different manner. So we have to look for, like, is it a regular amount of irritability is my child having, or is it a different way? Are they being more aggressive than normal? Are they whining more than normal? Things like that. Clinging and nightmares. Like, I feel a lot of times it can go on for longer in time than we realize. Like, a lot of our nightmares are manifestations of our fears. They are a manifestation of our anxiety. I will share one of mine that will make a little more sense. When I get really, really stressed out, all of my dreams are basically like a reenactment of what my stress or what my fear or what my anxiety might be. So the most recent one I can talk about is my vacation for the summer got canceled. And my dream basically was that I never went on that vacation ever again. Every time I tried to go to this country, it never worked out. And that was just a fear of mine that I wasn't able to figure out. And my dream was able to be like, hey, Samia, this is what's going on. So this is the reality. So it's really important for us to also pay attention to little ones' dreams and their fears and nightmares to understand what might be going on if the child is really unable to even verbalize that piece. Physical symptoms, headaches, stomach aches. Right now, I can guarantee the headaches are probably going to be the most escalated, because when your stress and anxiety goes up and then you're also staring at a screen all day long, everybody in the family system will probably feel that piece. So it'd be really important to, like, when you start seeing that you're getting those headaches more than normal, to schedule those like little breaks away from technology, which also would mean like no watching TV, no screens at all, like no cell phones, nothing, to just have that break to be with your loved ones. And then the kids can also see, like, hey, if mom and dad can put their phones away, I should be able to put my iPad away. So just those little things. Competition for parents' attention, that tends to escalate when children's anxiety is high, because they have more needs than they can verbalize. When they have more needs, they will seek for your attention more than not. Forgetfulness about chores and new information learned at school. So one of the ways anxiety affects people is having that brain fog, because there's so much going on. There's so many things that you are in survival mode for, where everything just seems a little foggy, like you know that you have to do something, but it might not be the easiest for you to remember and to be able to apply those things. So having that schedule also helps you with that piece. So as we work with kids between the ages of 6 to 12 right now, we have to remember to be very, very patient, because they don't know what's going on either. Like, they can't see their friends that they're used to seeing. They can't see their teachers. They might be struggling with their homework at home because maybe at school they had extra help and they might not right now, or they might not even know how to ask for the help when they're doing their school stuff. Having them understand the play sessions and staying in touch with friends is very, very important. If they are not able to see their friends through, like, Zoom calls and things like that, maybe set up like a FaceTime call or like a Zoom call between the friends, like families and stuff, so the kids can also see each other and have a little bit of the interpersonal touch that they crave. Um, regular exercising and stretching, just because we can't leave our house to walk or have that like more physical activation that we need, it's really important to still be physically active, because physical activity and some cardio work can take that anxiety out, because you're still able to exert that negative energy in a better and more positive manner. But I would highly, highly suggest that keep in mind that some people, when they get way more anxious, and they can overwork themselves, like running way longer distances than your body can handle. So it's really important to know too where your happy medium with working out and being physically active is too. Um, Setting gentle and firm limits. When anytime you set limits with your kids, always and always make sure that the child can understand why you're setting those limits and what is the most important things when you are setting those limits. So that way they can be like, oh, there's a reason why this is happening, but they also understand that, hey, this is my limit. This is where I'm going to be. Mom and dad expect this from me, but nothing else. And this is what I have to do. So it's really, really important for them to know why the limits are set and for what reason and for how long. Discuss the current outbreak, encourage questions, include what is being done in the family and the community. For the kids, the uncertainty, like even though we might not be able to say that they are feeling the uncertainty, so us just even telling them like, hey, this is the virus, this is how it affects us, but this is the reason why we're staying at home, so we are safe. That helps them see like, okay, there is a reasoning behind all of this chaos. We are going to be okay. And there are things that we can control, not just nothing that we have control over. So helping them see that piece. Encourage expression through play, conversation. One of the best ways, when I was talking about like, the regular exercising and stretching, you could also talk about like, hey, if I do these different stretches, or if I go do a dance, that would be a really good way of de-stressing. A friend of mine shared with me that she has an 8-year-old, and her 8-year-old didn't know what the Barbie song in the music video was. So their new coping thing is once or twice a day, when her daughter gets really, really anxious, they play the Barbie music video and dance together. So that's their way of being physical and also expressing through like some play. So that can be like a creative way of doing it. Helping create different ideas of enhancing health stuff, helping children understand like it's really important for you to drink water. It's really important for you to wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Just little things like that as well. Limit media exposure, talking about what they have seen, heard, including at school. So our media is extremely blowing up with these things. So little ones have access to the media, but they might not fully understand it and might not be age appropriate. So trying to limit that, especially in this chaos right now, might be really, really important. And addressing any stigma or discrimination that's going on in our community and in the world would be also very important for them to understand. But then again, always know what is the best for your child and have your best discretion for that. With adolescents, symptoms, headaches and rashes, same thing. A lot of times people break out in hives, like their face will get really red, or their chest and their arms. That is a really good way of knowing like, oh my goodness, my anxiety is peaking. Sleep and appetite disturbance, same as the little ones. They either overeat or undereat. I can tell you, I have heard this from so many people, that when the safe at home order started, when the pandemic started taking place and everything started being locked down, they were eating their feelings. And some people told me that they were basically working out even more than normal to deal with their feelings. But then at one point they have to realize like, oh, am I overdoing it or am I underdoing it? So trying to figure out what is the right place, because you can't just overeat instead of processing your emotions. Yes, have the compassion with every age group, but just taking those steps back to realize like, where is the happy medium with that? agitation or decrease in energy and apathy. That is really good for us to see even in others when you know somebody who's usually a really happy, bubbly, outgoing person, and all of a sudden it's like nothing. Like when you ask them, how are you doing? I'm okay. Okay, what's going on? So just helping them see like, okay, you are feeling the anxiety of this whole situation. Maybe it's more stress that they might be in. It's really important for us to just validate that. Do not ignore any health problems. It's really important for us to keep track of our own symptoms, because especially right now with the allergy season kicking in, a lot of people's anxiety about COVID might go up. So it's really good for us to keep track of those symptoms too. Like, okay, is this my allergy symptoms, or are they similar symptoms? If they are similar symptoms, just keeping track. And when you're talking to an adolescent about it, since they are more aware of those things, if they are an older age, so say like a 14-year-old who has taken biology, understands biology more, it would be really good for them to understand more implications and what it looks like, and be able to discuss and ask more questions about it. Isolating from peers and loved ones. Like, I know right now, since we're all technically in isolation, it's easy for people who naturally isolate when they're not feeling the best or not feeling like themselves. So when you see that, you can always say, like, I understand you need some time alone to be you, to take care of you. I know a lot of adolescents just like to be left alone, but help them see like, okay, you can't just fully do that. You still have to come be with the family. You have to still eat with the family or do certain activities throughout the day, things like that. And if the adolescent needs more of that validation piece with the encouragement, having the routine of like, okay, maybe during the school time, you can be in your room, you can do your Zoom videos, you can do your homework from bedroom, but then we will have a family workout session or a meditation session, or we will be cooking dinner together or playing a video game, things like that. So basically the same stuff that you would do for like a younger age group or an adult of patience, reassurance, trying to encourage a routine, helping them understand the situation and validating how they're feeling and applying the right coping skills that you know would be the right for you and the family system. It's really, really good for that. I'm going to quickly see if I have any questions from you guys. Awesome. If guys, any questions come up, feel free to raise your hand or drop it there. So I really, really want to encourage self-care bingo right now, mainly because with everything, it's so chaotic and it's not the normal way of doing self-care, because a lot of us are like, oh, for self-care, I would like to go to the gym, or for self-care, I like to go get my nails done. But since we can't do that, it's really good reminder of having the bingo yourself, and you can even make it a fun, creative thing for all age groups in your family. And everybody can get the bingo card, and whoever gets the bingo from this can be like, okay, you get to decide what we eat this week or next week. Things like that, trying to make it more creative to also promote the self-care. A lot of us, now that we don't have to leave our house to go and do things, maybe we are not showering every day or brushing our teeth or hair or even changing our clothes. Those little things that we do throughout the day to take care of ourselves normally are disrupted. And when they're disruptive, we are not really thinking about it. But it's really important for us to do this, because when we take care of ourselves little by little, we are really feeding ourselves what we need and what is going to help us be the most normal we can be right now. Like, just take a couple minutes and just look at the self-care bingo and just think about, what have you done, or are there things that you wish you would be doing right now to take care of yourself? I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think. All right, as you guys are now thinking, I will share a couple things about it myself. So before I even found this bingo, I'll tell you that my self-care for like the first week when everything started definitely was on the back burner and it wasn't the healthiest thing. So some of the things that I was slacking on, and I want to share this with you guys to encourage you guys to think and reflect of what was the little things that were bringing you joy that all of a sudden were gone. Um, Getting dressed every day. I'm the type of person I need to dress every day. When I wake up, I have to do my workouts. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't giving myself compliments because like there are times where all of us need a little bit of a boost, and I wasn't doing that for myself. Um, Took a break, wasn't taking any breaks. There were a couple others that went outside. I didn't go outside for like 4 days for obviously valid reasons, but I didn't even step out on my patio to just soak in the sun. And that was not the best thing to do. And ever since I have started implementing self care bingo, what I do in order to also watch that I'm not eating too many desserts, because I literally ate like a cake in 4 days, probably shouldn't have done that, but I was also eating my feelings out. So ever since I started doing it, what I do at night is I look at the bingo and see if I got the bingo. If I get a bingo one way or another, I give myself a little treat, like a small piece of chocolate or anything that I might be wanting and craving. Or if I want to go for a walk at night, I have done that. Like one of the fun things that I wanted to do always, but like trying to train my cats to like go outside on a leash on the patio. And ever since this happened, instead of going outside just for a walk, since I can't really do that, and I have obviously a lot of responsibilities like most of us, I just kind of put my cat on a leash and sat out on the patio and I did my work that I needed to do. So I did get to go outside. So, like, being creative and taking care of yourself while being creative right now is very, very important. Do you guys have any questions about that? Give you a couple minutes to think if you do, and then we'll move on. All right. So this is one of the things that I feel is going to be the most important this time and any other time too. So this is a good way of starting right now, I should say, is having a family mindfulness schedule. So like, you know how I was previously talked about when it comes to mindfulness, it's really good for us to know what we need and what helps us be mindful. So in order to have a healthy schedule for an entire family system of all age groups, you can be a little creative with it if you want to. You can start by waking up and checking in all of your five senses, which is you see, you hear, you feel, you smell, and you taste. And it's good for us to do that, so that helps us like ground us and bring us back to like what we are doing right now. Meals can do breakfast together or can have even a little snack in the morning together as a family. And then you can, if even if you can't do like a breakfast with the entire family or having like that strict, like every single person has to be together, the schedule doesn't mean that every single person has to be together. It just gives you like more of a routine to follow throughout the day. And as a family system, you can figure out who can do what at what times, or how can you do it together the best way you possibly can. Um, Travel, I know we can't travel outside right now for I Spy games. You can even just have like, okay, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm going to be doing my class. I will take a 5-minute break. I will go grab a muffin or have a cup of tea. Just having those like little breaks, that would be really good. Um, Mindfulness during school time, as we are just sitting here staring at a screen, doing our work, doing our schoolwork, anything, it takes a really big strain on our eyes. that causes headaches. That can also cause some anxiety. It can cause a lot of stress and just not the normalcy that we are used to. So it's really important for us to take the break from the school and the work itself. We can do, like, if when it comes to travel, you can always just go out for a walk, sit out on the patio. One of the fun things that I have started doing for myself and keeping myself sane is I have dedicated which room I'm going to be working out of that day or that week. So I don't go back and forth. If my anxiety kicks in, like, oh, maybe I should be sitting out on the patio and doing the stuff, then I think about, like, what work am I doing? Am I just doing my papers, or am I just doing some research, or am I going to be talking to people? So just being mindful of what my responsibility needs are and what my own needs are helps me have more of the normalcy and more of the routine that I need. Square breathing. This one works really, really well for adults and children, or the flower one. Basically, the idea is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, you breathe out in 6 seconds, and then you take a break. So the way you do the arrows helps the younger ones in the family understand it more. And the way adults do it, if you are better with like thinking about numbers in your mind, like when you breathe in, go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when you hold it in and then breathe out, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So like whatever is going to help you with that piece, like, do you need the numbers, need the visual thing, or do you need to do it physically? That will be really good to know. Free time, schedule free time as much as you can, but not overdo it. So like when I say schedule free time, I mean like when you are having those like routines back to back, because even though you are sitting and your back might be supported, but that doesn't mean that you can just sit there for hours without having your back hurt. So taking that strain of your physical body also helps you with your mental being. Bedtime relaxation. I think this one is really, really important for all age groups, not just for younger ones. So the way I would say it works really well for adults is doing some yoga stretches or taking a hot bath, just whatever helps your muscles relax. So for me, before I go to bed, in order to help my muscles relax, I have to take a really, really hot shower and then just do like a couple back stretches and like kind of loosen my hips a little and then go to bed. And that helps me a lot. I don't know how many of you know yoga poses, but some yoga poses that help you relieve some anxiety and helps you ground yourself a little bit would be doing deep breaths while you're doing the downward dog, and then going into the child's pose when you sit on the floor and you completely stretch your arms out and your back out. That can be very, very helpful for adults. Little ones, here's an activity that you guys can do, and you can always like be creative with it, because a muscle relaxation doesn't just mean that you have to constantly physically work on being relaxed. One of the things that I learned when I was working with adolescents and the little ones with anxiety was having like a cold or frozen orange in your hand. So when you hold that cold orange in your hand, it helps you like kind of ground yourself with the cold sensation in your hand. And as you start to peel that frozen orange, it kind of gets your muscles working. It gets them warmed up a little bit. It kind of de-escalates your anxiety because you're focused on something, you're processing what's happening, and you're also grounding yourself at the same time. Oh, we have a question. Hard to stick to a schedule and routine when teens are at home and they're leaving messes everywhere they go. That can be very, very stressful for the entire family system. And that is when I think it'd be really, really important to have that family talk about who can have what responsibilities, especially trying to work through this chaos. And when it comes to teenagers, trying to figure out like what kind of incentives or what do you think would be the best for the child to earn. So let's talk about 2 examples. if you have a child who is very driven by the verbal affirmations, it could be really good for you to be like, okay, every single time you eat a snack, you got to put it back. Anytime that you forget, maybe you lose some points, or if you do something good, maybe you and I can have like a cup of tea before bed, or have a cup of chai before bed, or we can just talk about things and just share some like personal lovey things, or family talk, like talk about grandma, talk about grandpa, like let's look at old family pictures. If that child is driven by positive affirmation and knowing more and more about what the family was like, that would be a really good incentive to offer the children. For somebody who like is better at, like, let's say negative reinforcement, like losing something, let's say losing their phone or iPod and things like that, a really good way to challenge that teenager would be like, hey, I understand that this is not the new norm. This is something that we're all struggling with. As I am trying to cope with this, as I'm trying to be helpful with this piece right now, let's make sure that we're all in this on the same page. And by doing that, I would really appreciate if you could clean up after yourself. And if you don't clean up after yourself, maybe you might lose your phone privileges, or you might have to turn in your phone between 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Things like that. Like, you can be very creative, and you can also talk and figure out like what would be the most easiest option for you and the family, and what would be the most beneficial option for you and the family. And yes, I can share that through email, the self-care bingo. I can actually, what I can do is just send you guys like the pictures, or actually the forms of the family mindfulness schedule, as well as the bingo. And then I'll just have them share with all of you guys. So that'd be a lot simpler. Any other questions about family mindfulness schedule or the bingo? I'll give a couple seconds before we move forward. Okay. All right, so as we learn to cope as a family, we have to remind ourselves as the adults in the family and as other people that we have to accept the new normal. Because if we don't accept the new normal, and we won't be able to realize that this is temporary and it's not going to last forever. The world is still out there. The world is still waiting for us, and we will go back to being who we were and how we were, and things will be better. And also helping the family understand, and all age groups understand, that yeah, it is a new normal. Yes, our stress levels are escalated. Yes, our anxiety is definitely escalated, but we are still in charge of our own actions. That doesn't mean that we have the right to be irritated with everybody else. We don't have a right to scream at anybody. We do not have a right to throw things at anybody, or showing our anxiety or stress in a negative way. Like, yeah, we might be feeling it, but this is the time for us to just take a couple steps back and understand that we're all coping with it, and we can still try and control our actions and our behaviors the best we possibly can. Exercise together as a family, do meditation together. Like, meditation doesn't have to be just mindfulness music and yoga. It can also be like coming up with a fun new recipe. I mean, I know not all kids love to like bake or cook, but if you give them like a little bit of like, I'll give you a choice between these two spices. Which one do you think I should try? Or what kind of cookie would you like to bake? We can come up with a fun recipe, or find a new recipe to try together. That can also be like a meditation for you, because you're present in the moment. You are talking, and you are actively calming your emotional and physical self. Gardening, if weather permits, like I know now it's sunny and it was just snowing a little bit ago. So like, if you can get out, be physical with like gardening, potting new plants, that's something that you can also do with the little ones. big ones, getting out, getting some sun, that'd be a really good way of you being present with your family and actually giving yourself that coping skill and that mechanism that would be the most beneficial. Art, you can do so many fun projects right now. You can paint something, you could color, or one of the things that I used to do when I was little with my sister was, so we're only a year and a half apart, one of my sisters is, so we would have a competition when we were like little, like 6 or 8, I think, where we would color our pictures, like the same pictures separately, and see who colors the fastest and the best. And whoever does wins, and their picture would go up in the fridge that day. So it was like a friendly competition, because at the end of the day, whoever also won got to pick what kind of dessert we eat as a family. So that was a fun way of us being together, but also being able to process that piece. And as we're thinking about that, we also have to remember that just because we have to be creative, we have to do all of these things, it's going to be fun. It is going to be okay. And if it's not something that's fun for you or your family, you can do it a completely different manner. And reading, you could read a new book, you could start writing a book. I heard from somebody last week, I think it was, their son is starting to write a new novel with their friend online. So they like do Zoom calls or FaceTime calls, one or the other, and they are writing a novel together of how this chaos reminds them of some movie. I think it was like Star Wars or something, and how they're coming up with their own creative way. And their plan is, when this whole situation ends, that's when they get to share with their school and their friends and family of how their superpowers help them. So that could be a really fun way of doing something. If you have family and friends that are living really far away from you, a really good option right now is having a Netflix watch party. So that way you can connect with your loved ones, but you can also do fun things with your loved ones. Like, how many times you think about like, oh, I wish I could go to the movies. You can watch movies with your friends like that, or your family, people that you care about. Go on a walk, get some sun, get out there, experiment, and experiment. This is the time where we have that control, that we can experiment as much as we want. So definitely take advantage of that. Or if there's any other cultural activity that your family might enjoy, you can do. We have a question. Talk about, okay. So one of the main things, as we are, like, how I was just talking about the whole idea of when we are irritated, when we are angry, and we are feeling that loss of control, we have to remember that it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a right to be angry, to take out our anger or our irritation or lack of control over what is happening in our world on somebody else. So if you were to think about, research is already showing, and it's being predicted, that a lot of people, like a lot of abuse numbers are going to go up, a lot of domestic violence numbers are going to go up, a lot of power and control is going to be happening, because right now that we don't have control, it is something that we have to be aware of, maybe something that we can't even recognize within ourselves. But the more we understand that, it's going to be really easy for us to be like, okay, this is not the way I should be treated right now. Like, I understand you're struggling, but that's not okay. And that also goes for adults towards children. A lot of times adults who have gone through like unhealthy coping over the years, they think that, or they might feel, not just think, but they might feel that it's okay for them to scream or take out their anger. And that's not always the right way. And when we're talking about children, we have to understand that children are very easy for us to mold. And while we are thinking about that, it's really good for us to teach children that it's not okay to take out your anger on somebody. Like, for instance, let's say a dad lost their job and they come home and they start screaming at the mom, is that okay for the dad to do that to the mom? Or if they start screaming at the child, no, it's the same thing as right now. We can't let our negative emotions get between us and our loved ones and affect each other in a way where we can cause harm. And we have to be very, very mindful of that piece right now, especially since we are feeling very escalated and we're in that survival mode and we're trying to just deal with the new adjustments and be okay. It's important for all ages to know that yes, we're struggling. Yes, you're struggling. Yes, and not, it is not the most ideal situation, but it doesn't give you the right to be angry. It doesn't give you the right to abuse anybody physically or verbally. And it's really important for all of us to practice that. Any questions? Give you guys a couple minutes to think. All right, I'm guessing there aren't any more questions. So if anything comes up or anything that you guys are curious about, you know how to get a hold of us. I will go quickly to the resource one. So just in case anybody is currently looking for resources out there, I can always try to help you guys get more if there's anything in particular that you might be looking for. And I know Janan and Fatiha have a lot of good resources for you guys as well.
Thank you, Samia. That was really, really informative. That although this is Samia's last session, she is part of our Peaceful Home Board advisory or advisory board. So she's always going to be involved with us, and we thank her for all her expertise and knowledge. And if anyone, she did mention that this is a time, unfortunately, of a huge surge in domestic violence incidents. The UN just currently had a report about that, and Wisconsin has seen its share as well. And we've seen our share of increased calls as well. So these are our numbers. Although our building is closed, we are open for appointments. We don't want anyone to feel that they are trapped because of the virus and they have to stay in unhealthy and unsafe environment. So our crisis lines are open 24 hours. You can feel free to text or call. It is anonymous and confidential. And then our next upcoming sessions on Monday, we are going to have a book club, and we're going to try to go live on Facebook on that one, see how that works for us. But the book clubs have been meeting here in our center every Monday, so we're going to try to take it online. They're currently discussing the book called Muhammad, Prophet of Peace Amid the Clash of Empires by Juan Cole. They're going to be discussing chapter 4. If you're not familiar with the book, you don't really need to be. If you're just curious and you want to come in and listen, it's a lot of intellectuals in that group, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the conversations. And then Dr. Rita will be joining us again for his part 3 of 4 of his Wednesday night sessions. On Wednesday, April 15th at 7 p.m. Central. He'll be discussing the impact of COVID on the family. He'll be doing it in Arabic and English. And he's a Harvard-trained trauma specialist and has a lot of personal experience with trauma, as well as he's always gone and done a lot of work with refugees overseas. And we are starting a new session that I think can be a little bit more fun. It's called Halal Cooking, and every Friday we're gonna try to get different members of our community that are very talented. So if you are semi-expert on the kitchen, please let us know. We'd love to have you. This coming Friday, April 17th, will be our community member. Many of you might be familiar with her, Sister Takwa, who does excellent food. So she'll be joining us and teaching us a little bit something. And with Ramadan coming up, we all could use some new recipes to learn. And so thank you again, Samia. That was excellent. Really, really a lot of good information. And I loved it.
Thank
Janan,
you for
do you
having
Thank
me.
have?
you. Yeah, thank you, Samia. We were really honored to have you for these last 4 sessions, and I'm sure down the road we'll have you again. But thank you. You shared a lot of very useful tips and information with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining, everyone. Have a great day and be safe.